So let's bring it all the way back to the few things that you may need an attorney for in the beginning. Let's start at day one here.
Day one.
The purchase agreement.
Yes. Make sure that your paperwork for putting a property under contract and your paperwork for selling a property are good to go. Make sure that they've got the right stuff in there. And then it's pretty simple from there. Make sure that you know what else you have to add to it. Do you have to have the lead-based paint? Do you have to have Megan's Law? Do you have to have the residential real estate disclosure forms? Find out what all you got to have to make it a valid contract so the other side can't weasel out later on.
I feel that with the purchase agreements that the real estate agents use, there's so much language in there that's there just to protect them that's unnecessary. I use a one page. I've been accused of saying, are you buying and selling a lawnmower here? It's like there needs some more things, but I don't like to confuse my sellers because a confused mind will say no. And sometimes attorneys, not you, but other attorneys, will load it up with so much protection that it scares them out of signing.
Right.
So how is it, what would you say in the purchase agreement, how can we be as simple as possible, but yet cover ourselves? What are like some of the key things for the state of Ohio? We're going to talk Ohio now because you're not going to practice law in every state. What are some key things that you should have in there in that one-page agreement?
Okay, be abundantly clear on who is buying and who is selling. Full, complete names, full, complete contact information. Be very clear as to who's handling the closing, when is the closing supposed to occur, and who is paying how much and when, and how is it being paid. Then it's really a couple of simple things that got to be left over, okay? What happens if the house burns down while it's under contract but hasn't closed? And what happens to it if something goes wrong? If for some reason the seller can't get clear marketable title, what do you do? If for some reason the buyer can't close because they didn't have the money, what happens? What are the remedies in those situations? And that's all you really need to get a typical deal across the finish line and closed in Ohio today. Then make sure, of course, you've got the lead-based paint, the residential real estate disclosure form, and anything else that's required, and go from there.
Do you feel that all that, it's not do you feel, is it law for our listeners that for the lead-based paint and all, if for doing investor transactions as well for houses that nobody's ever lived in? And
I want that because I want to make sure that I didn't leave something open later on. Okay? I would much rather have a residential real estate disclosure form and a lead-based paint form on there saying, never been in there, never lived in there, don't know, than for them to come back and say, well, you didn't disclose. And I've got a couple of cases I'm representing well-known investors right now over some of those issues. And so I'd rather over-disclose at the front end so that they can never say, well, you never told me.